Welcome back to another episode of Cozypreneur. If you are somebody who has been told that they need to handle objections in their content, in their sales conversations, and it feels a little bit icky, then maybe that's not the right system for you. So this episode is going to break down what objections are, why they might feel icky to you, and what to do instead. So let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the Cozypreneur podcast. If this is your first time listening, Cozypreneur is all about helping you make money and work with the dreamiest of clients. So grab your beverage, get your cozy socks on, and let's dive in. The idea of objections is that somebody comes to you and they might show some interest in your offer, but they aren't ready to invest. And so the idea of objections is really where you are trying to build urgency. You're like, hey, well, why not now? Why do you say in 6 months and why not now? And really trying to be like, really thinking about that person as a challenge that you're trying to overcome, right? You're not really trying to help somebody be like, hey, let me give you all the information that you need to make the best decision for yourself. You're more like, hey, this is the best decision for you, and I'm telling you what it is. And it's kind of removing this sense of agency from your people. And so there really is a way to respond to people's concerns, answer their questions, be super clear and transparent without shaming people and without making them feel bad. And that is going to help your marketing so much more in the long run. And really, the reason why it's going to help your marketing so much in the long run is because if somebody's only like 60% into your offer, right? So say they're kind of interested, but they're like 60% of the way there. And then they say yes, but only because you kind of made them feel like they had to say yes. And eventually they realize, hey, maybe this wasn't the best offer for me. And like those things that I was concerned about, they're kind of coming up right now. And that person is probably not going to refer you out. And that person is probably not going to re-sign because they didn't have a really good client experience versus somebody who maybe they were 60% and you were like, you know what? No pressure. Come back later. And they come back in 6 months and now they're at like a 95% and they're like totally ready and they ask you a question and you answer it and they are more confident and go into this knowing that this is the right offer for them. You're going to have way, way better client referrals. You're going to have a better re-signing rate because those people are going to be much happier with their client experience. And so really when you like zoom out and look at your business as a whole and look at your clients as a whole, that sales piece, that handling objections piece, the way you're treating people right at the beginning, that's going to set the stage for the future. When people are telling you that you need to handle objections, and sometimes it might be something that's like a limiting belief and people just need to think about things in a different way. So for example, if you are noticing that when you talk to your people, you know, they're really struggling with working out and they're really struggling with working out because they really, really, really want to do it in the morning before work, but they go to bed too late, you know, all of these things. And so they are failing at working out in the morning. But after talking to a lot of people, you realize that like, hey, maybe like all of my clients, maybe they do better trying to work out in the evening, or maybe they do better with like a lunchtime workout. And this is some of the things that I've helped my clients with. And you can show up to the sales call and say like, hey, you know, this person's saying, hey, I really struggle with mornings. Is this going to work for me? And you can talk about, hey, mornings aren't going to work for everybody. Here's what my other clients do. Here's how we adapt the program for them. Here is, you know, some different options of looking at it. That's different than handling an objection, right? That's where you're really taking their question and you are showing them exactly how your offer adapts to them, exactly how they fit into this offer, right? You're answering their very specific questions. And you know, sometimes that's all people need to make a decision. Like I am a very anxious person and I automatically trend towards no, right? Like somebody will be like, hey, do you want to like do XYZ? And I'll be like, no. And that's always my first gut reaction. And so sometimes I have to pause and be like, wait, let me get some more information, right? Like, where is it? Who's going to be there? What are the details around this, event, right? What time is it? If it's at 10 p.m., no, thank you. If it's at 6, all right, like I have some more information. I'm more comfortable with it. I can still be in bed by 10. And so sometimes when people are having that sales conversation with you or reading your marketing, sometimes they're just looking for more information. And that doesn't mean you need to like handle their objection, right? It just means that you need to give them the right amount of information. And the way that you give them that information, the way that you show them your approach and the way that you do things, that can really help move them towards a sale. But it's not in a way that's like, hey, you're an idiot if you didn't do this. And like, you know, people aren't necessarily outright saying that, but like if you look online, like some of it gives that vibe, right? Like this like mean girl vibe of like, hey, if you don't invest now, you're going to be in the same place in 6 months and then that's going to be your fault. It really doesn't acknowledge the realities that people live in, right? Because sometimes I want to invest in something and I just do not have the funds to do it. And it's not a decision that makes the most sense for me, right? And I have to really understand, is this going to be the best thing for my business? And so some of the things that I see that are like really icky is really just pressuring people, right? So you're not like handling objections is just like, I feel like another word for like pressuring and shaming people. So doing things like, you know, asking for credit card numbers on the call, telling stories like, hey, I used my last $300 to change my life and now I make millions of dollars. But again, like not recognizing that the people who did that like pre-2020 when it was a lot easier to do that. And the market has changed and it's not so easy to do that. And so really like saying these statements that are out of context can be really harmful, and it doesn't acknowledge like other people's roles and responsibilities, and it doesn't blame people, right? It's more understanding. If somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I need help with my website, but I don't want to outsource it for another year, I'm not going to be there and be like, well, you're going to lose a ton of money over the next year. No, I'm going to be like, hey, I totally understand. When you're ready, I'll be here. And that's it, because that is just like being respectful of people, and that respect, it goes a long way in, you know, who comes back to you. And if they don't come back, that's okay. Maybe they weren't the right fit, right? Maybe I wasn't the copywriter for them. And so when you're thinking about like creating content and like addressing objections, right? Addressing things that hold people back, it's not really about like convincing or shaming people. It's more like, what do you notice as the expert in the room, right? Like, what's your assessment of what's happening? And you can really talk about what are some things that you notice, right? As somebody who helps people with whatever you help people with, what are some of the common struggles that you see? And really think about that. And you can use those in your content. And it's not to say like, hey, I'm like handling all of these objections in my content, but it's more like, hey, you know, I keep being asked, how do you actually build a good routine? Or I keep being asked, why does my kid struggle so much with this? Or really being like, hey, like, you know, I see that you've tried X, Y, and Z. A lot of my clients have tried this and it didn't work. And here's why this is different, right? And so it's not really about being like, well, why don't you just take out a loan to pay for this because you know that this is the secret to your success? And instead, it's positioning yourself with enough confidence that you know the right people will be able to make the right decision. And it's almost about trusting your audience a little bit more and like treating them with that respect of like, hey, I understand that you can make the best decision for yourself and I don't need to be over here like making you feel like I'm the best choice. There's a way to do it. There's a way to talk about the patterns that you see without making people feel bad, right? And so when you talk about those patterns, that is thought leadership. That's not about manipulation. That's about being a leader in your industry. That's about, hey, this is what I noticed. This is what I see. This is why I do things in the way that I do it. So that way you're not being like, hey, if you can't afford this, it's because you never invested in yourself and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I feel like I can't think of any specific examples, but if you literally scroll Instagram or Threads, you will see them. So I guess like when you were thinking about your marketing and when you were thinking about your sales conversations and whether or not you have to handle objections, like really thinking about this, like how are you framing it? Like, are you framing it to really get people to make a sale and really whatever it takes? You're going to say whatever it takes to make that sale. Or are you framing it with more of a like human first approach where you're like, hey, here's the information you need. Here are some patterns. Here is my approach and why I do things in the way that I do it. here's how it applies directly to you, right? If they have those questions about how it applies to them, and then invite people in, and not in a, you need this, but like in a, hey, I think you'd be a great fit and I'd love to have you. It's just a different way of approaching people. It's not that you're not selling your offer. It's not that you're not answering questions, but you're doing it in a way that feels good for everybody involved. And that's going to help the long-term health of your business, right? Because people will be happier. They'll come back. They'll tell their friends about you. So when you're thinking about like objections and objection handling, it's not a challenge to be overcome. It's just an opportunity to position yourself as an expert, to answer people's questions, and to like be real with people. Like, not about pressuring people, but really just showing up and being honest about what you do and what holds people back, and being empathetic instead of manipulative, and not coming at it like in a condescending, like, hey, I know better than you, right? Like, I think that having that approach of like, hey, I'm positioning myself as the expert, and I still have room to learn and grow. And, this is the problem that you're struggling with, and this is how I help people that have that problem, and here's how I can help you. Trusting that process and trusting that honest communication is going to bring in the right people that you actually want to work with. Like, that's going to be game changing. So if you need some help writing messaging that clearly positions you as the expert and is persuasive enough for your people to come to you, that is exactly what I do, both in the Copy Studio and in Copy Classroom. So if you need some support, reach out, check out the website. And just remember, you don't need to ask for people's credit cards on a call. You don't need to imply that there's something wrong with your audience. You don't need to use your own story as proof that everybody should take this same risk. Like, you see these stories of like, hey, I used my last $3 to invest in coaching, and then I was able to get $1 million in those first 2 years. There's like so much nuance missing in that, of like, everybody's experience is different. And it doesn't acknowledge like the level of privilege that people have, and it doesn't acknowledge any context around what's going on in their business or life, and whether or not they have debt, and where they live in the world, and what policies affect them. So all of this being said, this oversimplification and this type of messaging of like handling objections just to make the sale, you don't have to do it that way. I mean, instead, you can just help people see the gaps, right? See what are the patterns that they're missing, offer different perspectives, explain how your offer is going to specifically work for them in an honest way, and trust that your people are ready to make the right decisions without pressuring them, without shaming them. And that's really the basis of ethical marketing, and that's what a good leader does. So all of this being said, don't feel like you have to do something somebody else told you to do. Don't feel like you have to shame people into buying right now. Sometimes slow growth is better and more sustainable. And if you are feeling like something feels a little bit icky, it's probably because it is. And this is your permission to let go of it. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you need any copy or marketing support. And until next time. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate and leave a review on your preferred listening platform. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe for weekly episodes about how to make money and work with the dreamiest of clients without having to get dressed in the morning. Make sure to check out the show notes down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.